In the grand halls of the royal pavilion on Mars, where the red dust storms whispered secrets against the domed glass ceilings, Jake Harlan stood alone amidst a sea of extraterrestrial elegance. The wedding of Princess Alara of the Martian Consortium to Lord Vexar of the Androman Alliance was no ordinary affair. It was a spectacle of interstellar diplomacy, a glittering fusion of cultures that spanned galaxies. Jake, a lone human diplomat from Earth, felt like an intruder in this cosmic ballet. His tailored suit, sharp and unadorned, clashed with the flowing robes and bioluminescent adornments of the guests around him. Aliens of every conceivable form mingled: tall, ethereal beings with skin that shimmered like stardust, squat traders with multiple limbs juggling holographic invitations, and sleek warriors whose eyes glowed with inner fire. He nursed a glass of synthetic champagne, the bubbles tickling his nose as he watched the procession. Why had he even come? Earth's invitation was a token gesture, a nod to humanity's recent entry into the Galactic Federation. But here, surrounded by beings who could read minds or manipulate gravity with a thought, Jake felt utterly insignificant. His thoughts drifted home to the bustling streets of New York, where loneliness was just another face in the crowd, not this profound isolation among stars. Then, she appeared. Like a vision from a fever dream, she glided through the throng, her white hair cascading like fresh snow over shoulders that gleamed with an otherworldly pallor. Her skin was porcelain smooth, almost translucent under the pavilion's artificial lights, and her ears, delicate, pointed like those of ancient elves from Earth's myths, twitched subtly, as if attuned to frequencies beyond human hearing. She wore a gown that hugged her curvaceous form, a blend of silk and alien alloy that shifted colors with her movements, from deep crimson to shimmering silver. Zara, as he would later learn her name, was a Zorath from the distant realm of Zerathia, a warrior caste known for their fierce loyalty and unmatched grace in battle. Her eyes, a piercing violet that seemed to hold the void of space itself, locked onto his. Jake's heart skipped a beat, not from fear, but from an inexplicable pull. She approached with purpose, her steps silent on the marble floor, and leaned in close enough that he could catch the faint scent of ozone and wildflowers from her world. "Pretend you're with me," she whispered, her voice a melodic hush that sent shivers down his spine. It wasn't a request, it was a command wrapped in velvet urgency. Before he could respond, she slipped her arm through his, her touch warm and electric against his skin. Jake blinked, his mind racing. "What? Who are She cut him off, her lips curving into a sly smile that revealed teeth as white as her hair. "Act natural, human. Smile like you adore me. There's no time to explain, but if you play along, you might just save both our lives." His pulse quickened. Save lives? At a wedding? The orchestra swelled with a triumphant fanfare as the bride and groom exchanged vows in a language that translated to poetry in his earpiece. But Zara's grip tightened, pulling him toward the shadows of an alcove draped in holographic vines. Around them, guests murmured approvals, their alien faces twisting in expressions of joy or envy. No one seemed to notice the odd pair, the solitary earthling and the enigmatic Zorath beauty. As they slipped away from the main hall, Jake's curiosity ignited into something fiercer. Who was this woman? Why him, of all people? The pavilion's domes reflected the Martian sunset, casting everything in a bloody hue that mirrored the adrenaline surging through his veins. Little did he know, this pretend partnership was about to thrust him into a web of interstellar intrigue, where humanity's so-called primitive traits, ingenuity, resilience, and that unyielding spark of madness would prove to be the galaxy's greatest weapon. They moved deeper into the labyrinthine corridors of the pavilion, her hand never leaving his arm. The air grew cooler, laced with the hum of hidden machinery. "My name is Zara," she said softly, glancing over her shoulder. "I'm not here for the wedding. I'm here to end a tyrant." Jake's eyes widened. "End, as in kill." She nodded, her pointed ears flicking with tension. "Lord Vexar isn't just a groom, he's a warlord who's slaughtered thousands on my homeworld Zerathia. This marriage is his path to more power. I need a companion who won't raise suspicions. You, human, are perfect. No one expects much from your kind." He should have pulled away, reported her to security. But something in her eyes, vulnerability masked by steel, stirred him. Earthlings were often dismissed as fragile newcomers to the stars, but Jake had always prided himself on adaptability. "All right," he murmured, surprising himself. But if we're pretending, let's make it convincing. Zara's smile deepened, a mix of relief and intrigue. Good, follow my lead. They re-emerged into a side chamber where dignitaries lounged on anti-grav cushions, sipping exotic elixirs. Zara leaned into him, her body pressing close in a way that felt both calculated and intoxicating. Whispers followed them, a human with a Zorath. How quaint. But no alarms sounded. Jake played his part, draping an arm around her waist, feeling the subtle curve of her form beneath the gown. It was all an act, he told himself, but his body betrayed him with a rush of heat. As the evening unfolded, the wedding feast began. Tables groaned under platters of glowing fruits and synthesized meats from a dozen worlds. Zara guided him to a secluded booth, her fingers tracing idle patterns on his hand, a signal, perhaps, or something more. Tell me about Earth, she said, her voice low and inviting. Your people are legends in whispers, survivors of deathworlds, they say. Mad enough to defy the stars. Jake chuckled, lean in. Mad, maybe. We've got a saying, fortune favors the bold. But right now, I'm just trying not to trip over my own feet in this gravity. Her laughter was like chimes in the wind, genuine and disarming. For a moment, the mission faded, and it was just them, two souls bridging the void. But then, her expression hardened. The target is approaching. Stay close. Lord Vexar swept into the room, his massive frame clad in armored finery, tentacles coiling from his shoulders like living whips. His eyes, multifaceted and cold, scanned the crowd. Zara tensed, her hand slipping to a hidden dagger beneath her gown. Jake's mind whirred, how could he help? He was no assassin, but humans had tricks up their sleeves. His wrist implant, a standard Earth tech for comms, could interface with local systems if he got creative. As Vexar drew near, greeting allies with booming laughs, Zara whispered, now's our chance. Distract him while but fate intervened. A sudden alert blared through the pavilion, intruder detected in the outer rings. Chaos erupted as guards mobilized, energy shields flickering to life. Vexar's gaze snapped toward them, suspicion etching his alien features. Zara pulled Jake behind a pillar, her breath hot against his ear. This wasn't part of the plan. We need to move fast. Heart pounding, Jake nodded. I've got an idea. My tech can hack the security grid. Buy us time. Her violet eyes sparkled with surprise. You a human? Underestimate us at your peril, he grinned, fingers flying over his implant's holographic interface. As alarms wailed and guests scattered, their pretend alliance deepened into something real, a bond forged in the fire of impending danger. Zara's touch lingered, no longer just for show, and Jake felt the stirrings of a connection that transcended species. In the galaxy's vast tapestry, humans were often the punchline, but tonight, one man was about to rewrite the joke. They dashed through service tunnels, the red glow of emergency lights painting their path. Zara's gown tore slightly at the hem, revealing toned legs that moved with predatory grace. You're full of surprises, Jake Harlan, she said, glancing back. How do you know my name? I did my research. Humans intrigue me, your endurance, your passion. He swallowed hard, the air thick with unspoken tension. Ahead, a locked door barred their way. Jake interfaced his implant, code streaming like digital rain. Almost there, the door hissed open, revealing a maintenance bay overlooking the Martian dunes. But guards were closing in. Vexar's elite, armored behemoths with plasma rifles humming. Zara drew her dagger, which extended into a glowing blade. Fight or flee? Jake's eyes narrowed. Both. Let's show them what mad really means. In a blur, she lunged, her movements a dance of lethal elegance. One guard fell, disarmed by a precise strike. Jake, drawing on Earth training, grabbed a loose conduit and jury-rigged it into a stun device, zapping another. Sparks flew, the air crackling with energy. You're not just a diplomat, Zara panted, admiration in her voice as they pressed on. And you're not just an assassin, he replied, their hands brushing in the heat of battle. As they escaped into the night, the wedding's fireworks exploding overhead like distant supernovas, Jake realized this was no longer pretense. The alien girl who had whispered for his help had awakened something primal in him, a human fire that burned brighter than any star. But dangers loomed larger. Vexar's ship hovered on the horizon, and Zara's mission was far from over. What secrets did she hide? And could a human truly win the heart of a Zorath warrior? The chase led them to an abandoned rover depot, where dust-laden vehicles sat like forgotten relics. Zara sealed the entrance with a quick weld from her blade, buying them moments. We can't stay here long. Vexar will hunt us. Jake wiped sweat from his brow, his suit rumpled but his resolve steel. Then let's turn the tables. Tell me everything. Why him? Why now? She hesitated, her white hair disheveled yet ethereal. Leaning against a console, she began. Zerathia was peaceful once, a world of crystal spires and endless skies. Vexar invaded, claiming resources for his empire. He killed my family, forced alliances through fear. This wedding, it's his crowning conquest. But I infiltrated as a guest, waiting for the right moment. Her voice cracked slightly, vulnerability peeking through her warrior facade. Jake stepped closer, drawn by her strength and sorrow. I'm sorry. Earth knows invasion too, our history's full of it. But we fight back, always. Their eyes met, the space between them charged. Zara reached out, tracing his jaw with a finger. You humans so resilient, it's intoxicating. Before he could respond, a rumble shook the depot. Vexar's forces breached the outer wall, debris flying. Time's up. Jake yelled, hacking a rover's controls. The vehicle roared to life, its treads kicking up red sand as they sped into the storm. Bullets of plasma whizzed past, scorching the air. Zara returned fire from the passenger seat, her blade now a rifle mode, blasts precise and deadly. Jake swerved through canyons, his driving skills honed from Earth's rugged terrains. Hold on. A pursuing drone locked on missiles arming. In a mad gamble, Jake ramped the rover off a cliff, twisting midair to evade. The drone exploded against rock, flames lighting the night. Zara laughed breathlessly. Insane, but brilliant. As they hid in a cave, the storm raging outside, their bodies close for warmth, Jake felt the shift. Pretend no more, this was the start of something cosmic, where a lonely human and a vengeful alien might just redefine love across the stars. The storm howled like a beast outside the cave, whipping Martian sands into frenzied spirals that battered the rocky entrance. Inside, the dim glow from Jake's wrist implant cast flickering shadows across the uneven walls, turning the cramped space into a cocoon of intimacy amid chaos. Zara pressed against him, her body a tantalizing contrast to the cold stone, warm, supple, and alive with the subtle hum of her alien physiology. Her white hair, now tousled from their escape, framed her face like a halo of moonlight, and those pointed ears quivered ever so slightly, picking up vibrations he couldn't even sense. The gown she wore, torn and clinging in places from the rover's wild ride, accentuated every curve, the fabric shifting hues as if breathing with her. Jake's breath came in shallow bursts, not just from the adrenaline of the chase, but from her proximity. She was close enough that he could feel the rhythm of her heartbeat faster than a human's, like a distant drum calling him deeper into unknown territory. We should be safe here for a while, he murmured, his voice low to avoid echoing. The storm will cover our tracks. Zara tilted her head, her violet eyes locking onto his with an intensity that made his skin prickle. Safe. In a galaxy where Vexar holds sway, safety is an illusion. But with you it feels almost real. Her fingers, slender and strong, traced the edge of his jaw again, lingering this time, as if memorizing the texture of his stubble. It was a touch that sent sparks racing through him, blurring the line between ally and something far more dangerous. He swallowed, trying to focus on the mission. We need a plan. Hacking the pavilion's grid was a start, but Vexar's ship is out there. If we can get to my shuttle, shh, she interrupted softly, her lips curving into that sly smile that had first drawn him in. She shifted closer, her thigh brushing against his in the confined space, the contact electric. Plans can wait. The storm buys us time, and I need to know if I can trust you fully, human. Her voice dropped to a husky whisper, laced with a Zorath accent that rolled like velvet over his senses. Tell me, Jake, what drives a man like you to dive into this madness? Diplomacy doesn't usually involve dodging plasma fire. He chuckled nervously, but there was no escaping her gaze or the way her body heat seeped through his suit, igniting a fire he hadn't felt in years. Loneliness had been his companion for too long, buried under layers of protocol and interstellar negotiations. Now, here in this alien cave, with a warrior woman who could snap his neck if she chose, he felt alive. Curiosity, I guess, and maybe a bit of that human recklessness you mentioned. Earthlings don't back down from a challenge, especially when it comes with intriguing company. Her laughter echoed softly, a sound that vibrated through him. She leaned in, her breath warm against his neck, sending shivers down his spine. Intriguing? Is that how you see me? A puzzle to solve? Her hand slid to his chest, resting over his heart, feeling its rapid thump. The gown's neckline dipped lower with her movement, revealing the smooth expanse of her pale skin, flawless and inviting. Jake's mind raced. This was pretend, right? But the way her eyes darkened, pupils dilating in the low light, suggested otherwise. Before he could form a coherent thought, she closed the distance, her lips brushing his in a tentative kiss that exploded into something fierce. It was like tasting starlight, sweet, intoxicating, with an undercurrent of spice from her world. Her tongue teased his, exploring with a curiosity that mirrored his own, and he responded instinctively, his hands finding her waist, pulling her closer. The fabric of her gown was thin, almost non-existent under his palms, and he felt the firmness of her body, the subtle ridges along her spine that spoke of her Zorath heritage, evolutionary adaptations for agility in battle. Zara moaned softly into the kiss, her fingers tangling in his hair, tugging just enough to send a jolt of pleasure-pain through him. She broke away briefly, her chest heaving, eyes gleaming with a mix of desire and mischief. "Humans kiss like they're conquering worlds," she whispered, her voice breathy. "No hesitation, no fear. It's exhilarating." Jake's hands roamed higher, tracing the curve of her back, feeling the warmth radiate from her skin. And Zorath, what do they do in moments like this? He nipped at her earlobe, those delicate pointed tips surprisingly sensitive, eliciting a gasp from her that fueled his boldness. "We claim what we want," she replied, her tone turning predatory. She pushed him gently against the cave wall, her body molding to his, hips grinding in a slow, deliberate rhythm that left no doubt about her intentions. The storm outside seemed to mirror the tempest building between them, thunder rumbling as if in approval. Jake's suit felt constricting now, a barrier he wanted gone, but Zara's hands were already at work, deft fingers unzipping and peeling away layers with practiced ease. Her skin against his was a revelation, silky smooth, with a faint luminescence that glowed faintly in the dim light, like bioluminescent veins tracing patterns under the surface. It was erotic in its otherworldliness, a reminder that she was no ordinary woman, but a being from stars he'd only dreamed of. She kissed her way down his neck, teeth grazing his collarbone, while her hands explored lower, teasing the edge of his waistband. "You're warmer than I expected," she murmured against his skin, her voice laced with wonder. "Like a furnace, burning from within." Jake groaned, his own hands slipping under her gown, discovering the absence of undergarments, a Zorath custom, perhaps, or just her warrior practicality. Her body responded to his touch, arching into him, her breaths coming in short, needy bursts. The cave's chill faded, replaced by the heat they generated, sweat mingling as they moved together in a dance as old as life itself, yet utterly new across species lines. But even in this haze of passion, suspense lingered like a shadow. Zara paused suddenly, her head snapping toward the entrance, ears twitching. "Wait," she hissed, her body tensing. Jake froze, heart pounding not just from arousal but from the abrupt shift. The storm's roar had masked it, but now he heard it too, a low hum growing louder. Drones, scouts. She pulled away slightly, her gown slipping back into place with frustrating efficiency, though her eyes still burned with unquenched fire. "They're closer than I thought. Vexar's hunters don't give up easily." Jake adjusted his clothing, frustration mixing with the adrenaline rush. "Then we finish this later," he said, his voice rough with desire. He grabbed his implant, scanning for signals. "I can jam their comms from here, buy us more time to get to my shuttle." Zara nodded, but her hand lingered on his arm, a promise in her touch. "You surprise me again, human. Most would run, you dive deeper." She leaned in for one more quick kiss, fierce and possessive, before they turned to the task at hand. As Jake worked the hack, fingers flying over holographic keys, Zara stood guard, her blade at the ready. The hum outside grew, punctuated by the whine of engines cutting through the wind. Tension coiled in the air, thick and palpable, mirroring the unfinished heat between them. Would they escape, or would Vexar's forces interrupt this budding connection before it could fully ignite? The implant beeped, success, comms jammed, at least temporarily. "Done," Jake announced, turning to her. But Zara was already moving, pulling him toward a hidden crevice deeper in the cave. "There's another way out. Follow me." They slipped through narrow passages, the rock scraping against their sides, forcing them close once more. Her scent enveloped him, ozone, wildflowers, and now the musk of their shared arousal. Every brush of her body against his was a tease, a reminder of what had almost been, building the suspense to a fever pitch. Emerging into a smaller chamber, lit by phosphorescent fungi that cast an eerie blue glow, Zara paused. "We have a moment here. The drones won't find this path easily." Her eyes met his again, desire reigniting like a spark on dry tinder. Jake didn't hesitate this time. He pulled her to him, backing her against the wall, his mouth claiming hers with renewed urgency. She responded eagerly, legs wrapping around his waist as he lifted her, the gown hiking up to reveal more of her alluring form. Their movements were frantic yet synchronized, a blend of human passion and Zorath grace. He trailed kisses down her neck, savoring the salt of her skin, while her nails dug into his shoulders, urging him on. In this hidden sanctuary, amid the glow of alien life, they surrendered to the pull. Zara's gasps filled the air, her body arching in ways that defied gravity, perhaps a Zorath trait, or just the intensity of the moment. Jake lost himself in her, the world narrowing to the feel of her, the taste, the overwhelming connection that transcended biology. But as ecstasy built, a distant explosion rocked the cave, Vexar's forces blasting through obstacles. Zara's eyes snapped open mid-moan. "They're breaching the outer layers. We can't stay." Reluctantly, they disentangled, breaths ragged, bodies humming with unfinished energy. "To be continued," Jake panted, a grin breaking through despite the danger. Zara smirked, adjusting her gown. "Count on it, human. Now, let's make them regret chasing us." They pressed on, the erotic tension simmering beneath the surface, fueling their resolve. The path led upward, toward the surface, where Vexar's ship loomed like a predator in the night. Jake's mind whirled with strategies: hack the ship's defenses, sabotage from afar. But with Zara by his side, her presence a constant, tantalizing distraction, he felt invincible. As they neared the exit, the storm began to wane, revealing stars twinkling mockingly above. A patrol hovered nearby, scanners sweeping. Zara pulled him into cover, her body once again flush against his. "One more hack," she whispered, her lips brushing his ear. "Disable their sensors." Jake nodded, focusing through the haze of desire. The implant interfaced, code weaving like threads in a web. Success beeped softly, and the patrol veered off course, blind to their position. "Brilliant," Zara breathed, rewarding him with a deep, lingering kiss that promised more battles and more rewards ahead. The night stretched on, fraught with peril and possibility, their bond strengthening with every step. In the vastness of space, where alliances were fragile and enemies relentless, Jake and Zara were forging something unbreakable, one stolen moment at a time. The stars above Mars pierced the thinning veil of the storm like accusatory eyes, watching as Jake and Zara emerged from the cave's hidden mouth, the red sands shifting under their feet like treacherous waves. The patrol drone, now aimless and drifting in the jammed signal void, hummed harmlessly into the distance, but the reprieve felt fragile, a mere breath before the inevitable plunge. Zara's hand slipped from his, her fingers lingering just a second too long, a silent vow amid the chaos. "We can't afford another delay," she said, her voice steady but edged with the fire that still smoldered between them. "My intel says Vexar's personal guard is converging on the eastern ridge. His ship is there. Vulnerable if we strike now." Jake nodded, his mind a whirlwind of strategy and lingering heat, the taste of her still on his lips driving him forward. They moved as one, shadows blending into the Martian night, the dome of the pavilion, a distant glow behind them like a fading dream. The terrain grew rugged, craters pockmarking the landscape like scars from ancient battles, and Jake's Earth-adapted lungs burned with the thin atmosphere, but he pushed on, his human endurance kicking in where tech failed. Zara glanced at him, her violet eyes reflecting starlight, a mix of concern and admiration flickering across her features. "You're holding up better than most aliens would in this gravity. That madness of yours, it's not just talk." A low rumble echoed ahead, vibrating through the ground like the growl of a awakening giant. They crested a dune, and there it was, Vexar's flagship, a behemoth of twisted metal and pulsing energy shields, hovering just above the surface like a predator poised to strike. Tentacle-like appendages extended from its hull, scanning the sands, while armored sentinels patrolled the perimeter, hulking figures with exoskeletons that gleamed under floodlights, their weapons humming with lethal charge. Jake's heart thundered, the thrill of the hunt mingling with raw fear. This wasn't diplomacy, this was war on an alien scale. "Stay low," Zara whispered, dropping to a crouch, her gown whispering against the sand as she drew her blade, extending it into its full rifle form with a soft click. The shields are keyed to Andromendan biosigns. I can slip through, but I'll handle it, Jake interrupted, his implant already interfacing with the faint signals bleeding from the ship. Humans weren't supposed to hack tech this advanced, but Earth's coders had a knack for exploiting weaknesses others overlooked. His fingers danced in the air, holographic code unfolding like a digital flower. Give me 30 seconds. I'll drop a section of the shield enough for us to breach. She arched an eyebrow, those pointed ears twitching in surprise. Confident, aren't you? If it fails, we're exposed. It won't. His voice carried a dramatic certainty, born from years of underdog negotiations where humanity clawed its way into the stars. As the code infiltrated, alarms began to wail faintly from the ship, a thrilling crescendo that set his nerves alight. The guards stirred, heads swiveling, but Zara was ready. She fired a silenced shot, dropping one silently into the dust, his body crumpling like a discarded puppet. The shield flickered, a gap opening like a wound in the energy field. Now, Jake hissed, and they sprinted forward, the wind whipping Zara's white hair into a wild banner. Plasma bolts erupted around them as more guards spotted the intrusion, the air sizzling with heat that singed Jake's suit. He dove behind a rocky outcrop, pulling Zara with him, their bodies colliding in a tangle of limbs and urgency. Her breath was hot on his neck, a reminder of their earlier intimacy, now twisted into survival's desperate embrace. From cover, Zara unleashed a barrage, her shots precise and deadly, felling 2 more sentinels in explosive bursts of light. But the ship responded. Those tentacle arms lashed out, one slamming into the ground mere feet away, cratering the sand and sending them tumbling. Jake rolled, grabbing a fallen guard's weapon, its grip alien but intuitive in his hands. He fired back, the recoil jolting his arms, but the bolt struck true, severing a tentacle in a shower of sparks. "Take that, you oversized squid," he shouted, the words echoing with human defiance, a thrilling roar that cut through the din. Zara's eyes widened in curiosity and surprise, a laugh escaping her amid the gunfire. "You wield that like a Zorath veteran. Where did a diplomat learn to fight?" "Earth movies," he quipped, but there was no time for banter. The climax was building, the ship's core humming louder as reinforcements poured from hatches, dozens now, forming a phalanx that advanced with mechanical precision. Vexar himself emerged on the ramp, his massive form silhouetted against the interior lights, tentacles writhing in fury. "Intruders," his voice boomed, amplified across the dunes, a dramatic thunder that shook the ground. "The Zorath bitch and her pet human? How quaint. Surrender, and I'll make your ends quick." Jake's blood ran cold, but Zara's face hardened into a mask of vengeance, her pale skin flushing with rage. "He's mine," she growled, leaping from cover in a blur of motion that defied physics. She charged, blade shifting mid-stride into a sword form, clashing against the first guard in a symphony of steel and energy. Sparks flew as she danced through them, her movements a thrilling ballet of death, slashing, dodging, her gown tearing further to reveal the lithe, powerful form beneath, every strike fueled by years of bottled fury. Jake provided cover, his hacked implant now disrupting the guards' comms, causing confusion in their ranks. One turned on another in the glitch, blasts going wild. But Vexar advanced, his tentacles whipping like vengeful serpents, one catching Zara mid-leap and slamming her to the ground. She cried out, the sound piercing Jake's soul, dramatic and heart-wrenching. "Zara!" he yelled, surging forward without thought, human instinct overriding caution. He tackled a guard blocking his path, wrestling the weapon free and firing point-blank into its chest. The alien exploded in a gout of ichor, but another loomed until Zara, bloodied but unbroken, rose like a phoenix, her sword impaling it from behind. Together, they pressed on, a united force against the tide, thrilling in their synergy. Vexar laughed, a guttural sound that echoed curiosity. How could a mere human stand against him? "You amuse me, Earthling," Vexar sneered, coiling a tentacle around Jake's leg and yanking him off his feet. The world inverted, pain shooting through him as he dangled upside down, the Lord's multifaceted eyes boring into his. "What makes you think you can challenge a god?" Jake gritted his teeth, dramatic resolve burning in his chest. "Because gods bleed too." With a surge of adrenaline, that human secret weapon, he activated his implant's overload, channeling a feedback loop through the tentacle's neural interface. Vexar howled, surprise etching his features as electricity arced through him, forcing him to release Jake. Tumbling free, Jake landed hard, but Zara was there, pulling him up, her touch a lifeline. Brilliant move, she breathed, eyes wide with thrilling awe. But Vexar recovered, summoning an energy wave that knocked them back, the ground cracking under the force. The ship began to lift, engines roaring like a beast in agony, preparing to flee or bombard. Curiosity piqued in Jake's mind. What was Vexar hiding? Why retreat now? As they scrambled for cover, Zara revealed a surprise of her own. I planted a tracker earlier. His ship's core is unstable, one good hit, and it all ends. The revelation hit like a thunderbolt, surprising even Jake. You planned this all along. Using me as bait. Not bait, she corrected, her voice dramatic with emotion. Partner. They locked eyes amid the chaos, a thrilling connection sparking anew. With renewed purpose, Jake hacked the ship's defenses one final time, exposing the core. Zara took the shot, her rifle beam lancing through the night, striking true. The explosion was cataclysmic, a blooming fireball that lit the Martian sky like a second sun, debris raining down as Vexar's screams cut short in the inferno. But as the dust settled, a surprising twist emerged. Vexar wasn't dead. A escape pod jettisoned at the last second, streaking toward the horizon. He's fleeing, Zara exclaimed, curiosity and rage mingling. Jake grabbed her hand, the thrill of survival pulsing through them. Then we chase. This isn't over. They raced toward Jake's hidden shuttle, the night alive with dramatic promise, hearts pounding in unison. Vexar's survival was a curveball, curious and surprising, pulling them deeper into a web of interstellar secrets. What alliances did he have, and how far would their bond go to unravel it all? The shuttle's engines ignited, lifting them into the stars, the climax echoing behind, but the true storm just beginning. Zara leaned against him in the cockpit, her body a comforting weight, whispering, "You were magnificent out there. Humans, you're full of wonders." Jake smiled, the universe unfolding before them, thrilling uncertainties ahead. But for now, in this moment of breathless victory, they were unbreakable. The shuttle hurtled through the thinning Martian atmosphere, engines thrumming with a steady growl that vibrated through the seats, propelling them toward the velvet expanse of space where Vexar's escape pod blinked like a fleeing firefly on the scanners. Zara's whisper still hung in the air, her words wrapping around Jake like a warm cloak against the chill of the cockpit. But as the adrenaline ebbed, a new tension crept in, one laced with the raw edges of what they'd just survived. She shifted slightly, her curvaceous form brushing against his arm in the confined space, sending a subtle reminder of their unfinished intimacies. But now, with the stars streaking past the viewport, the drama of pursuit took center stage, heightening every glance, every unspoken question. Locking onto his trajectory, Jake said, his fingers flying over the console, the holographic display casting a blue glow on his face. The pod was veering toward a nearby asteroid belt, a notorious hideout for smugglers and warlords, dense with floating debris that could shred a ship in seconds. His heart raced, not just from the chase, but from the weight of Zara's presence, her white hair, spilling over the headrest, those pointed ears perked as if listening to the cosmos itself. What had started as a pretend date at a wedding, now felt like a cosmic entanglement, dramatic and inescapable, with stakes that could unravel empires. Zara leaned forward, her violet eyes narrowing at the screen. He's heading for the Veil asteroids. Clever bastard, natural shields against scanners. But if we push the engines, we can intercept before he docks with reinforcements. Her voice carried that warrior edge, but there was a hitch, a subtle vulnerability that made the moment more intense. She placed a hand on his thigh, ostensibly for balance as the shuttle banked, but the touch lingered, electric and distracting, heightening the awkward undercurrent bubbling between them. Jake cleared his throat, trying to focus, but her proximity was a minefield of temptation. Right, pushing to max thrust. Hold on, this bucket wasn't built for dogfights. The shuttle lurched forward, acceleration pressing them back into their seats, and for a split second, their hands intertwined instinctively, a dramatic clasp amid the roar. But then, alarms blared, proximity warnings flashing red as the asteroid field loomed. Evasive maneuvers, he yelled, swerving to avoid a tumbling rock the size of a house, the ship groaning in protest. Zara's laughter cut through the tension, light and unexpected, adding a humorous spark to the drama. You fly like a drunken comet, human. Is this how Earthlings court danger or women? She teased. But her grip tightened, her body shifting closer as another asteroid whizzed past, close enough to rattle the hull. The awkwardness peaked when the sudden jolt sent her tumbling into his lap, her gowned form pressing against him in a way that was anything but professional, her pale skin flushing slightly under the console lights. "Whoa, sorry," Jake stammered, his face heating up as he steadied her, hands landing on her waist perhaps a beat too long. The drama of the chase mixed with this intimate mishap, creating a bizarre cocktail of peril and proximity. Not exactly the smoothest ride. Blame the budget cuts on Earth shuttles, they're more for tea parties than asteroid ballets. She didn't pull away immediately, her eyes sparkling with mischief amid the chaos. Tea parties? You'll have to explain that later. For now, keep us alive, partner. But as she resettled, adjusting her torn gown with a wry smile, the humor diffused the awkwardness just enough to keep them focused, though the air crackled with unspoken desires. The pod's signal grew stronger, Vexar's voice suddenly hacking into their comms, a dramatic intrusion that shattered the moment. "You fools," his guttural tone boomed, laced with static from the asteroids. "Chasing me into the veil, your human pet will get you both killed. Turn back, Zorath, and I'll spare your pretty hide for old time's sake." Zara's face darkened, the drama escalating as old wounds surfaced. "Old times? You mean when you razed my home and called it conquest?" She slammed a fist on the console, her pointed ears flattening in anger. Jake glanced at her, curiosity piqued. There was history here, deeper than she'd let on, heightening the stakes to a personal vendetta that made his blood run hot. He muted the comms temporarily, steering through a narrow gap between spinning boulders. "What does he mean by old times? You two know each other." The question hung awkwardly, laced with a hint of jealousy he hadn't expected, adding a layer of human drama to their interstellar tango. Zara hesitated, her curvaceous silhouette tense against the stars. "It's complicated. Vexar was once an ally to Zerathia before betrayal turned him monster. He courted me once, in his twisted way, but that's ancient history." She shot him a sidelong glance, humor flickering back to lighten the blow. Jealous Jake, a human diplomat worried about a tentacled tyrant. How adorably primitive. He chuckled despite himself, the sound easing the tension as he dodged another debris field. "Primitive," says the warrior in a dress that's one asteroid bump away from a wardrobe malfunction. The quip landed, drawing a genuine laugh from her, but the drama surged back when Vexar's pod vanished behind a massive rock, only to re-emerge firing retro thrusters in a desperate evasion. "Missiles incoming," Jake shouted, the shuttle's defenses auto-deploying chaff in a glittering cloud. Explosions bloomed around them, rocking the ship and sending sparks flying from a console. Zara grabbed the auxiliary controls, her fingers dancing with alien grace, stabilizing their spin. But in the tumult, an awkward situation unfolded. The force threw her against him again. This time pinning her in a compromising tangle, her white hair cascading over his face like a silken veil. "Get off, I mean, hold still," he blurted, trying to reach the yoke, but her body heat and the scent of her ozone, mixed with that wildflower essence, distracted him terribly. The drama heightened as the ship careened toward a jagged asteroid, seconds from impact. "Zara, the stabilizers?" She twisted, her gown hiking up in the process, revealing more of her toned, pale legs than intended, adding an unintended erotic awkwardness to the life or death scramble. "Got it," she yelled, slamming the reset, the ship righting itself just in time. They skimmed the rock's surface, sparks trailing like fireworks, and Jake couldn't help but grin through the sweat. "Remind me never to complain about Earth traffic again. This is next-level ridiculous." Her response was a breathless laugh, but her eyes held a dramatic fire. "Ridiculous? This is living human. Now, lock weapons, we end this." The pod was cornered now, trapped in a cul-de-sac of floating debris, Vexar's comms crackling with desperation. "You can't win, Zorath. My fleet is en route surrender, and perhaps I'll let your pet live as a slave." The words ignited Zara's rage, heightening the drama to a boiling point. She fired a warning shot, grazing the pod's hull in a shower of molten metal. "Your fleet? They'll find ashes." But as Jake prepped for the kill shot, an awkward twist emerged. The scanners picked up a distress beacon from the pod, not just Vexar's but laced with Zerathian codes. Zara froze, her face paling. "Wait, that's my sister's signal. Impossible, he must have her captive." The revelation hit like a plasma blast, surprising and dramatic, turning the chase into a rescue. Jake's mind reeled sister. The awkwardness of their budding romance now clashed with this family bombshell, adding humor in his bewildered expression. Sister, you didn't think to mention you had family in play. This pretend date just got a whole lot more complicated, like soap opera levels. Zara shot him a glare mixed with amusement. Soap opera? Another Earth mystery. Focus, we board, not destroy. She maneuvered them closer, the docking clamps extending with a clang that echoed through the void. But Vexar wasn't done. His pod unleashed a EMP pulse, shorting their systems momentarily, lights flickering as the shuttle went dark. In the sudden blackout, they floated weightless, bodies drifting together in an awkward, zero-G embrace. Jake's hand brushed her hip unintentionally, drawing a sharp intake of breath from her. Sorry, gravity's out, he muttered, humor cutting the drama. Worst timing ever for a power nap. She pushed off gently, reactivating auxiliary power with a kick to the panel. Humans and their excuses. Let's move before he turns my sister into leverage. The lights hummed back, and they sealed the airlock, boarding the pod in a rush of pressurized air. Inside, the drama peak of Vexar loomed in the cramped cabin, tentacles coiled around a bound Zorath woman, Zara's mirror image, but younger, with the same white hair and pointed ears, her eyes wide with fear. Welcome aboard, Vexar sneered, his voice dripping venom. Family reunion, how touching. Zara's blade hummed to life, but the awkward standoff thickened the air. Any wrong move could doom her sister. Jake, thinking fast, hacked the pod's internal systems from his implant, overriding the life support subtly. Let her go, squid face, he quipped, adding humor to diffuse. Or we'll all be breathing vacuum, your call. Vexar's eyes narrowed, surprise flickering. The drama hung by a thread, awkward tensions coiling like his tentacles' sibling rescue, interstellar betrayal, and the undeniable spark between Jake and Zara, all converging in this tiny pod. As the fleet's signals blinked on scanners, approaching fast, the height of the crisis loomed, promising more twists in their chaotic alliance. But Jake's hack paid off. Oxygen levels dropped just enough to make Vexar gasp, his grip loosening. Zara lunged, freeing her sister in a blur, the three of them tumbling back toward the airlock as alarms wailed. Run, she commanded, humor absent now in the raw drama of escape. They piled into the shuttle, detaching with a violent shudder, Vexar's curses fading behind. Zara's sister Nara, as she introduced herself, breathlessly clung to her, tears streaming. You came for me with a human? Zara glanced at Jake, a soft smile breaking through. He's full of surprises. And awkward charm. As they blasted away from the asteroids, the fleet closing in, the drama refused to relent, awkward family dynamics mixing with humorous human quirks, all while the stars bore witness to their unbreakable bond. The shuttle streaked through the void, engines humming a low, reassuring rhythm that cut through the silence of space, leaving the chaotic swirl of the Veil asteroids fading into pinpricks of light behind them. Nara, still catching her breath from the ordeal, slumped in the rear compartment, her eyes heavy with exhaustion, as she murmured thanks to her sister before drifting into a much-needed sleep. The pod's sedatives Vexar had used on her finally wearing off, but leaving her drained. Zara watched her for a moment, her violet eyes softening with a rare tenderness, before turning back to Jake in the pilot's seat, that soft smile lingering on her lips like an invitation unspoken. The fleet's signals were still distant blips on the scanners, giving them a precious window of respite, and in the dim glow of the cockpit, the air thickened with the unresolved energy that had been building since their first whispered pretense at the wedding. You really are full of surprises, Zara said again, her voice a gentle murmur that carried over the hum, her hand reaching out to rest on his shoulder, fingers tracing the seam of his suit with a deliberate slowness. The touch reignited the spark from earlier, a warmth that spread through him like liquid fire, reminding him of the cave's stolen moments and the asteroid chase's frantic brushes. Jake glanced at her, his pulse quickening under her gaze, the stars outside blurring into streaks as the shuttle maintained its course toward a neutral outpost where they could regroup. And you, he replied, his tone laced with a mix of awe and desire, are the most captivating warrior I've ever met. Saving your sister like that, it's like something out of Earth's old legends. He adjusted the controls slightly, setting the autopilot to buy them time, his free hand covering hers, the contact sending a shiver up his arm. The cockpit felt smaller now, intimate, with Nara's soft breathing the only other sound, a distant backdrop to the pull between them. Zara shifted in her seat, her torn gown slipping slightly to reveal the smooth curve of her shoulder, her pale skin catching the console's light in a way that made her seem almost ethereal, yet undeniably real and inviting. She leaned closer, her white hair brushing against his cheek, carrying that faint scent of ozone and wildflowers that had become intoxicating to him. Legends? On Zerathia, we have stories of bonds forged in battle, connections that transcend worlds. But with you, human, it's different. Deeper. Her words hung in the air, charged with emotion, and she closed the gap, her lips finding his in a kiss that started soft but deepened quickly, a release of the pent-up tension from the fight. Jake responded eagerly, his hands moving to her waist, pulling her onto his lap, as the seat reclined with a quiet whir, the shuttle's systems accommodating without a hitch. The kiss grew more insistent, her body pressing against his, the fabric of her gown thin and yielding under his touch. Zara's pointed ears twitched sensitively as his fingers grazed them, eliciting a soft gasp from her that vibrated through him, heightening the intimacy. She straddled him now, her curvaceous form molding perfectly, her warmth seeping through his suit, stirring a primal response that made his breath hitch. "Jake," she whispered against his mouth, her voice breathy and full of need. "We've waited too long for this. No more interruptions." He nodded, words failing as desire took over, his hands exploring the contours of her back, feeling the subtle ridges that marked her Zorath heritage adaptations that made her movements fluid and graceful, even here in this confined space. The gown parted easily, sliding off her shoulders to pool around her waist, revealing her flawless, luminous skin that seemed to glow faintly, as if drawing energy from the stars themselves. Jake's suit followed suit, unzipped and discarded in hurried but careful motions, their bodies finally free to connect without barriers. Her touch was exploratory, curious about the differences his human build, solid and warm, contrasting her lithe elegance, and she traced patterns over his chest, her nails lightly grazing, sending waves of pleasure through him. As they moved together, the rhythm built slowly, a dance of discovery where every caress and sigh deepened their bond. Zara arched into him, her violet eyes locking onto his, filled with a mix of vulnerability and passion that made the moment feel profound, almost sacred in the vastness of space. He held her close, his lips trailing down her neck, savoring the salt of her skin, the way her body responded with subtle shimmers, like distant nebulae coming alive. The sensations were overwhelming, yet tender, her warmth enveloping him, their movements sinking in a harmonious flow that blurred the lines between species, focusing only on the shared humanity of desire, or perhaps the universal spark that connected all beings. Soft moans escaped her, muffled against his shoulder as she clung to him, her hips rolling in a gentle, insistent cadence that built tension like a coiling spring. Jake's hands roamed lower, cupping her curves, guiding her with a firmness that drew appreciative whispers from her, words in her native tongue that he didn't understand but felt in his core affectionate, urging. The cockpit's dim lights cast shadows that danced across their forms, highlighting the beauty of their union, her white hair cascading like a veil as she leaned back slightly, giving him access to explore further, his mouth finding sensitive spots that made her tremble. Time seemed to stretch, the shuttle's autopilot holding steady as they lost themselves in each other, the earlier dangers fading into a hazy backdrop. Zara's breaths quickened, her body tensing in waves of building ecstasy, and Jake matched her pace, his own release approaching in tandem, a shared crescendo that felt like stars colliding. When it came, it was a quiet explosion of sensation waves crashing over them, leaving them breathless and entwined, hearts pounding in unison against the hum of the engines. They lingered in the afterglow, her head resting on his chest, listening to his heartbeat, a steady drum that grounded her. "That was extraordinary," she murmured, her fingers idly tracing circles on his skin, the intimacy lingering like a warm ember. Jake smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face, feeling a profound connection that went beyond the physical, a trust forged in fire and now sealed in this vulnerable moment. But even as they savored the closeness, the scanners beeped softly, a reminder that the fleet was drawing nearer, pulling them back to reality. Zara lifted her head, her eyes meeting his with a mix of satisfaction and resolve. "We should check on Nara, prepare for what's next." She dressed slowly, her movements graceful, helping him with his suit in tender gestures that spoke volumes. Nara stirred in the back as they approached, rubbing her eyes and offering a weak smile. "You two look rested," she said, a hint of knowing in her tone that made Zara chuckle softly. The sisters embraced, the bond between them strengthening the group's resolve, while Jake monitored the controls, his mind already plotting their next move, evading the fleet, perhaps seeking allies in Zerathia. As the shuttle veered toward a jump point, the stars aligning for their escape, Jake felt a surge of confidence. Humans were often underestimated, but here, in this alliance of hearts and wills, he was proving otherwise. Zara slipped her hand into his, a silent promise of more moments like this. Once the storm passed, the jump initiated, space folding around them in a swirl of light, carrying them toward uncertain horizons. But with Zara by his side, and Nara safe, the future felt less daunting, filled with potential for victory, and perhaps, a love that spanned galaxies. Yet, as the warp stabilized, a new alert flashed, an encrypted message from Zerathian channels, bearing Vexar's insignia. Zara's face hardened as she decoded it. "He's not done. He's calling in favors old enemies of my people." The drama reignited, but their recent connection fueled their determination, turning fear into fierce unity. They huddled together, planning amid the stars, Nara contributing insights from her captivity, her spirit unbroken. Jake's human ingenuity shone, suggesting hacks to disrupt the incoming forces, while Zara's warrior knowledge mapped out battle strategies. The shuttle became a haven of strategy and solace, their bond the anchor in the cosmic tide. Hours passed in this limbo, the fleet's pursuit relentless but distant, allowing brief respites where Jake and Zara stole glances, touches that promised continuation. Nara, sensing the spark, gave them space with a wry smile. "Humans bring chaos, but perhaps that's what we need." As they approached the outpost, a neutral hub teeming with traders and refugees, the tension built anew. Docking procedures initiated, but scanners picked up anomalies, Vexar's spies, perhaps embedded in the crowds. Zara gripped Jake's arm. "Stay close, this could get complicated." They disembarked into the bustling station, a labyrinth of corridors alive with alien species bartering goods from across the stars. Nara blended in, her resemblance to Zara a potential asset or liability. Jake felt out of place yet empowered, his Earth tech giving him an edge in navigating the digital underbelly. A shadowy figure approached in the dim market lights, a contact Zara recognized, offering intel on Vexar's next move. But mid-conversation, alarms wailed, breach detected. Vexar's forces had infiltrated, turning the outpost into a battlefield. Chaos erupted, plasma fire lighting the halls as they fled, Zara's blade flashing, Jake hacking security doors to seal pursuers. Nara proved her worth, disarming a guard with surprising skill. "Captivity taught me a few tricks," she quipped. They reached a safe room, barricading the door, breaths ragged. In the brief lull, Zara pulled Jake aside, her kiss fierce and reassuring. "We'll make it through this together." The words lingered as pounding echoed outside, the siege beginning. Jake rigged explosives from scavenged parts, his human creativity turning the tide. The explosion cleared a path, and they escaped to a stolen freighter, blasting off into the void once more. Now, with the outpost shrinking behind, they set course for Zerathia, the heart of the conflict. Zara shared more of her world's beauty, crystal spires under twin moons, where love was celebrated in rituals of light. Jake envisioned a future there with her, but first, victory. Nara rested again, leaving them alone in the bridge. Zara's hand found his, pulling him close. "No more waiting," she whispered, and they surrendered once more, the stars their only witnesses, the connection deepening with every shared breath. In this blend of passion and peril, Jake realized humanity's true strength, not just survival, but the capacity to love fiercely amid the stars. The freighter glided through the star-speckled void, its hull humming softly like a contented beast, as it charted a course toward Zerathia, the twin moons of Zara's homeworld already visible as distant silver orbs on the forward viewscreen. Jake leaned back in the pilot's chair, his body still humming from the intimate connection they'd shared, a quiet satisfaction settling over him like a warm blanket amid the cold expanse of space. Zara sat beside him, her hand resting lightly on his knee, a gesture that had become as natural as breathing in the hours since their escape from the outpost. Nara dozed in the adjacent lounge area, her breathing even and peaceful, the ordeal of her captivity finally giving way to restorative sleep. The encrypted message from Vexar lingered in the air like a shadow, but for now, it felt distant, a problem for later as they savored this fragile interlude of calm. You know, Jake said softly, breaking the comfortable silence, his fingers intertwining with hers, back on Earth. We have stories about star-crossed lovers, people from different worlds finding each other against all odds. Never thought I'd live one. His voice carried a light warmth, the kind that came from newfound hope, and he turned to her, admiring the way the console lights danced across her pale skin, making her violet eyes shimmer like amethysts. Zara smiled, leaning her head against his shoulder, her white hair spilling over like a cascade of silk. On Zerathia, we call it soul-weaving threads of fate binding across the cosmos. But with you, it's more than legend. You've changed everything, Jake. My mission was solitary vengeance, now it's us. She squeezed his hand, her pointed ears flicking slightly, as if attuned to some unheard melody, and for a moment, the universe felt right human resilience paired with Zorath grace, a partnership that could topple tyrants. The freighter's AI chimed gently, announcing their approach to Zerathia's outer defenses. Incoming hail from Planetary Command, it intoned, pulling them back to the present. Zara straightened, her warrior instincts sharpening as she activated the comms. A holographic figure materialized, a stern Zorath elder, his features etched with the crystalline markings of high rank, his eyes narrowing in recognition. Zara of the Vanguard, he greeted, his voice resonant and formal. Your return is timely. We've monitored Vexar's movements, his fleet gathers at the border. But you've brought guests. His gaze shifted to Jake and the sleeping Nara, a flicker of something unreadable crossing his face. Approval? Suspicion? Elder Kale, Zara replied, her tone respectful yet firm. This human, Jake Harlan, aided in Nara's rescue. He's proven himself an ally. We carry vital intel, Vexar's weaknesses, his calls for reinforcements. We must rally the council. Kale nodded slowly, but there was a hesitation that made Jake's instincts prickle. Granted. Docking clearance approved. Proceed to Spire Prime. The hologram faded, leaving an uneasy quiet. Zara exhaled, relaxing slightly, but Jake couldn't shake the odd vibe. The elder's eyes had lingered too long on Nara. As they descended through Zerathia's atmosphere, the world unfolded below like a jewel, towering crystal spires piercing lavender clouds, rivers of liquid light weaving through verdant valleys, and cities that pulsed with bioluminescent energy. It was breathtaking, a far cry from Earth's concrete jungles, and Jake felt a surge of wonder. It's beautiful, he murmured, squeezing Zara's hand. Like you described. She beamed, pride lighting her features. Wait until you see the heart of it. The rituals under the moons, they bind souls eternally. Her words carried a hint of promise, a future they might share, and Jake's heart swelled with the possibility. Nara stirred then, stretching with a yawn as the freighter touched down on a gleaming platform atop Spire Prime, the central hub of Zerathian governance. Guards in ornate armor awaited, escorting them through arched corridors lined with glowing runes that hummed softly, like whispers from the planet itself. The council chamber was a grand amphitheater, walls of translucent crystal amplifying the light of the twin moons overhead, casting everything in an ethereal glow. Elders and warriors filled the tiers, their pointed ears and pale skins a sea of uniformity, with Zara and Nara standing out only by their determined postures. Jake felt out of place, a lone human in this alien sanctum, but Zara's presence grounded him as they approached the central dais where Elder Kale presided. Zara, Kale began, his voice echoing dramatically, recount your mission. The human's role intrigues us. Earthlings are unpredictable. Zara stepped forward, detailing the wedding infiltration, the escape, Nara's rescue, and Vexar's survival, her words painting a vivid picture of peril and triumph. Jake added his part, explaining the hacks and battles, emphasizing humanity's ingenuity. Murmurs rippled through the council, curiosity, perhaps even respect. Nara corroborated, her voice steady as she described her captivity, Vexar's taunts, and the timely intervention. But as she spoke, something shifted. Kale's expression hardened, and he raised a hand. Enough. Nara, your account aligns, but we must verify. He gestured, and hidden panels in the floor slid open, revealing a crystalline orb that pulsed with inner light. A truth seer, Zara explained in a whisper, a device that scanned minds for deception. Jake tensed, but Nara approached willingly, placing her hand on the orb. It glowed softly, scanning then flared red, alarms blaring through the chamber. Gasps echoed as guards surged forward, weapons humming to life. Deception detected, Kale thundered. Nara is compromised, a neural implant from Vexar, broadcasting our secrets. Zara's face drained of color, her violet eyes widening in shock. What? No, that's impossible. She's my sister. She moved to intervene, but guards restrained her gently, their grips firm yet respectful. Jake's mind reeled, the twist hitting like a supernova. Nara, the rescued captive, a spy? But how? When? Nara's demeanor changed in an instant, her soft features twisting into a sneer that didn't belong. Fools, she spat, her voice modulating with an electronic undertone, Vexar's influence bleeding through. You rescued the bait. My sister here walked right into it. The orb projected holograms, evidence of the implant, installed during captivity, turning Nara into an unwitting conduit for Vexar's espionage. But the real surprise deepened. The projections revealed more. Vexar hadn't just implanted her, he'd cloned aspects of her mind, creating a hybrid that could mimic loyalty while feeding data back. Jake's heart pounded, the surprise rippling through him like ice water. Zara, wait, this can't be right. We checked her on the shuttle. But even as he spoke, memories flashed. Nara's convenient sedatives, her quick recovery, the way she'd contributed just enough to steer their plans. The council erupted in chaos, elders demanding explanations, warriors mobilizing for defense. Zara whirled on Nara, betrayal etching her face. Hal, you fought with us, disarmed guards. Nara, or what was left of her, laughed, a chilling sound. Programmed responses. Vexar anticipated your every move, sister. He let you rescue me to infiltrate the heart of Zerathia. And now, his fleet knows our defenses thanks to the humans' tech amplifying the signal. The accusation turned eyes on Jake, suspicion blooming. What? No, I didn't, but the twist deepened further, the orb scanning residual data from his implant, revealing an unwitting hack. During their intimate moments on the freighter, when passions ran high and guards were down, Nara had subtly interfaced with his device, using it as a booster to transmit classified Zerathian codes Vexar now exploited. Zara's gaze met Jake's, pain and confusion warring in her eyes. Jake, did you know? The question hung like a blade, the powerful revelation shattering their bond in an instant. He shook his head vehemently, but doubt seated. Had humanity's help been a curse? The council moved to detain Nara, neural disruptors firing to neutralize the implant, but she convulsed, a final message from Vexar projecting the game changes. Zorath. Your hero is doomed. My forces arrive in hours. Alarms wailed planet-wide as Vexar's fleet warped in, blotting the stars far sooner than anticipated, their positions betrayed. Zara broke free, grabbing Jake's arm, her touch conflicted. We fix this together. But if you're part of it, she trailed off, the surprise of the twist leaving raw wounds. Jake's mind raced, human ingenuity kicking in amid the shock. I swear I didn't know. But I can turn this hack back through the implant, disrupt his command. The council hesitated, but Kale nodded grimly. Prove it, Earthling, or share her fate. As defenses activated, crystal spires humming with energy shields, Jake interfaced with the orb, code streaming in a desperate bid. Zara stood by him, her loyalty tested but unbroken, Nara subdued and quarantined. The twist had upended everything. Sister turned traitor, alliance fractured, but in the HFY spirit, Jake vowed to reclaim victory from betrayal's jaws. The fleet closed, plasma lances firing first volleys that shattered outer barriers. Warriors scrambled to positions, Zara donning battle armor that hugged her form like a second skin, her blade at the ready. Whatever comes, she said to Jake, we face it as one. He nodded, the code breakthrough coming, a backdoor in Vexar's network, Nara's implant a double-edged sword. Got it, shutting down their targeting. Shields faltered on enemy ships, chaos ensuing as they turned on each other in glitches. But the surprise lingered. Vexar's voice boomed across comms. You think this ends here? Earth's deeper involvement. The words seeded more doubt, a layered twist hinting at deeper conspiracies. Zara glanced at Jake, questions burning, but battle called. They charged into the fray, his hacks turning tides, her strikes lethal poetry. Amid explosions and clashes, their bond reforged in fire, surprises be damned. As Zerathia's moons watched, humanity's madness proved pivotal. Jake's improvisation exposing Vexar's overreach. Ships fell, the fleet retreating, but the twist's echoes promised more revelations. In the aftermath, Zara pulled him aside amid rubble. What did he mean, Earth's agenda? Jake swallowed, memories surfacing, vague briefings, hidden directives. I don't know. But we'll uncover it, together. The powerful reversal had shaken foundations, but from surprise came strength, their love a beacon against the stars' deceit. The council chamber's crystal walls still hummed with residual energy from the truth-seer's flare, the air thick with the scent of ozone and tension as Zerathian warriors mobilized, their armored boots echoing like thunder through the spires. Zara's question about Earth's agenda lingered between them like a charged plasma field, her hand still on Jake's arm, a grip that was equal parts anchor and accusation, but she didn't pull away, not yet. The drama of the betrayal pulsed through the room, heightening every glance and whisper, as elders barked orders and holograms flickered with incoming fleet positions, Vexar's armada a swarm of red icons closing in like vengeful insects. Jake met her gaze, his human heart pounding with a mix of guilt and determination, the awkward weight of unspoken secrets pressing down harder than Zerathia's gravity. I swear, Zara, whatever Vexar meant, it's not me. Earth's diplomats don't get the full picture, we're just pawns in bigger games sometimes. His words tumbled out, laced with that earnest human humor that often diffused crises back home, but here it landed awkwardly, like a misfired joke at a funeral. Hell, half the time I think our leaders are winging it with coffee and crossed fingers. But we'll dig into it after we kick his tentacled ass back to Andromeda. She searched his eyes, her pointed ears drooping slightly in conflict, the drama etching lines of doubt on her flawless face. A faint smile tugged at her lips despite everything, humor flickering through the storm. Coffee and fingers. Your Earth sayings are as baffling as your bravery. Fine, we fight first, interrogate later. She released his arm but stayed close, their bond strained yet unbroken, as Kale's voice boomed over the chaos, assigning them to the forward defenses. Human, your hacks bought us time, now prove they're not a double-edged blade. Zara, lead the vanguard, take your ally with you. The awkwardness intensified as they hurried through the spire's corridors. Nara's quarantined form a ghost in their minds, her betrayal a raw wound that made every step feel like navigating a minefield of trust. Warriors nodded to Zara with respect, but their glances at Jake were laced with suspicion, whispers of Earth's spy. And Vexar's puppet? Floating like daggers. One burly Zorath guard bumped Jake's shoulder accidentally, muttering, "Watch your hacks, soft skin," forcing Jake to bite back a retort. Zara shot the guard a glare that could melt crystal, but the incident hung there, heightening the drama of his outsider status in this high-stakes war. They emerged onto a balcony overlooking the capital's defenses, crystal turrets charging with luminous energy, the twin moons casting dual shadows that made the landscape feel doubly treacherous. Vexar's fleet pierced the atmosphere now, fiery trails streaking like comets of doom, and the first volleys slammed into the planetary shields, ripples of force shaking the spire. Jake's implant synced with Zerathian systems, his fingers dancing over holographic controls to bolster firewalls, but the awkward proximity to Zara brushing arms as they worked side by side added a layer of personal drama amid the bombardment. Incoming breach attempt, he warned, his voice steady, but inside, Vexar's taunt echoed Earth's agenda. What if there was truth to it? Classified files he'd glimpsed alliances with shady factions suddenly felt ominous. Zara activated her blade, its glow reflecting in her violet eyes as she coordinated strikes. Target the lead cruiser, my team's flanking. But as she turned to him, a massive explosion rocked the balcony, debris flying and forcing her into his arms in a clumsy tumble. They landed in a heap, her curvaceous body pinning him momentarily, her white hair tickling his face in the most inconvenient way. "Get off, I mean, are you all right?" she stammered, her pale cheeks flushing with an awkward mix of concern and embarrassment, heightening the drama as enemy drones buzzed overhead. Jake grinned through the dust, humor bubbling up to cut the tension. "I'm fine though. If this is your idea of a hug, we need to work on technique. Earthlings prefer less explosions." She rolled her eyes but laughed, a short, genuine burst that eased the knot in his chest before pulling him up, their hands lingering a second too long. The moment shattered as a drone locked on, its laser charging with a whine. Zara sliced it mid-air, sparks raining like fireworks, but the near miss amplified the stakes, her protective stance over him drawing more suspicious stares from nearby warriors. Deeper into the fray they plunged, descending to ground level, where Zerathian forces clashed with Vexar's landing troops, tentacled horrors in powered suits, rampaging through crystal gardens, uprooting glowing flora in brutal sweeps. The drama escalated as Jake hacked a enemy walker, turning its cannons on its own ranks, but the victory was short-lived. A counter-hack from Vexar's side glitched his implant, projecting embarrassing snippets of Earth pop culture, old memes and cat videos across Zerathian comms. Warriors paused mid-battle, confused laughter mixing with gunfire. "What sorcery is this?" one shouted, while another quipped, "The human fights with dancing animals." Zara face-bombed, the awkward situation peaking as she dragged him behind cover. "Jake, your tech is leaking nonsense. Fix it before they think we're all mad." He flushed, fingers scrambling to purge the glitch, humor undercutting the drama in a bizarre way. "Blame my outdated firmware. Earth's idea of security is passwords like password 123. But hey, at least it's distracting them." She shook her head, but her smile betrayed amusement, the light moment forging a bridge over the chasm of doubt. The battle raged on, heightening to a fever pitch as Vexar himself broadcasted from his flagship, his image holographically looming over the battlefield like a malevolent god. "Zerathia falls today. And you, human, your world's secrets will be next. Did you tell her about the pact? Earth's deal with my allies for tech scraps?" The accusation boomed, freezing warriors mid-stride, eyes turning to Jake in a wave of awkward judgment. Zara stiffened beside him, the drama coiling like a spring, her blade wavering for the first time. "Pact, Jake, what pact?" He swallowed hard, the revelation hitting like a gut punch, memories flooding back, a briefing he'd dismissed as rumor. Earth trading minor intel for advanced drives, possibly with Vexar's proxies. "It's not what it sounds like, bureaucratic BS, not betrayal." "I didn't know it tied to him." The awkwardness was palpable, standing there amid laser fire, confessing half-truths while dodging blasts. A tentacled soldier lunged, forcing them apart. Zara dispatched it with furious strikes, her movements a whirlwind of grace and rage. Humor crept in unexpectedly when Jake's glitched implant broadcasted again, this time, a cheesy Earth love song, crooning about eternal bonds over the comms. Enemies paused, tentacles twitching in confusion, giving Zerathians a momentary edge. "Your weapon is music," Zara panted, slicing through another foe, her laughter strained but real. Only a human could turn war into a concert. The quip lightened the heavy air, but the drama surged as Vexar's ground forces breached a key spire, hostages taken, elders including Kale dragged into view. "Surrender, or they die," Vexar demanded, his hologram flickering with triumph. Zara's face twisted in horror, the personal stakes skyrocketing. Kale had mentored her, a father figure in the ashes of her family. "We can't let this happen," she whispered, turning to Jake with desperate eyes. "Your hacks, can you free them?" He nodded, diving into the code amid the chaos. But the awkward truth gnawed. If Earth's pact was real, was he complicit? Fingers flew, infiltrating Vexar's command net, but a feedback loop zapped him, visions flashing, classified docs confirming the deal, stamped with his own clearance level. "Oh crap," he muttered, the realization heightening the internal drama to breaking point. Zara noticed his pallor. "What now?" "More cat videos." Worse, Vexar wasn't lying entirely. "Earth did deal, but I swear, it's not with him directly. Shady middleman." The confession hung awkwardly, laser bolts whizzing past as she processed, her trust teetering on a knife's edge. But in true Zorath fashion, she shoved it aside. "Later, save them now, explain with coffee later." Her humor-laced resolve pulled him back, and he pushed through, overriding the hostages' restraints. The elders broke free in a dramatic surge, turning the tide with hidden weapons, blasting captors in a symphony of light. Cheers erupted, but Vexar retaliated, his flagship descending like a doom bringer, main cannon charging. The drama peaked as Jake and Zara raced to an anti-air turret, clambering up in a frantic, awkward scramble, her gown remnants snagging, his suit tearing, both laughing hysterically at the absurdity. "We're the galaxy's worst heroes," he gasped, manning the controls. "Speak for yourself," she retorted, firing a volley that grazed the ship, sparks flying. But Vexar's counter-blast shook the ground, separating them momentarily in a cloud of dust. Jake's heart stopped. Zara, only for her to emerge, blade gleaming, tackling a foe who'd snuck up. "Miss me?" she quipped, the humor a lifeline in the storm. Together they synchronized his hacks, dropping shields, her shots piercing the core. The flagship listed, explosions blooming, Vexar's screams echoing as it crashed in a fiery spectacle. Warriors converged, mopping up remnants, but the victory felt bittersweet, awkward questions looming like the smoke. In the lull, Zara pulled Jake aside, the twin moons illuminating her face. The packed truth now. He sighed, spilling details: Earth's desperation for tech, unwitting ties to Vexar's network. I didn't know. But I'll fix it, expose them. She nodded, drama softening into understanding, awkward timing for confessions human. But I believe you. Their embrace was fierce, humor returning in his whisper next time, less tentacles, more tea parties. As cleanup began, Nara implant purged stirred in quarantine, her true self emerging with apologies. The family reunion added emotional layers, awkward hugs amid ruins. Zerathia stood, thanks to a mad human and his warrior love, but Vexar's final taunt hinted at more Earth's deeper involvement. Drama simmered, promising future battles, but for now, they savored the win, bonds stronger for the trials. As the smoke from Vexar's crashed flagship curled into Zerathia's lavender skies, mingling with the first hints of dawn breaking over the twin moons, a hush fell over the battlefield, broken only by the distant hum of crystal spires recharging and the soft cheers of weary warriors tending to their wounds. Zara's embrace lingered, her body warm against Jake's, despite the chill of the morning air, her violet eyes searching his face for the truth he'd promised to uncover, the awkward confessions of Earth's shadowy dealings still echoing between them like unresolved notes in a symphony. The drama of the night had forged them anew, but questions remained, threads of doubt that could unravel everything if left untied. Yet in that moment, with Nara emerging from quarantine, her implant fully excised, her true self shining through tearful apologies, they chose to breathe, to let the victory settle like dust after a storm. "I'm sorry," Nara whispered, pulling Zara into a fierce hug, her voice trembling with the weight of what Vexar had twisted her into. "I fought it, but his control, it was like drowning in shadows." Zara held her tight, the sisters' bond mending in silent understanding, while Jake stood a step back, giving them space but feeling the pull of inclusion, his human heart aching to be part of this alien family he'd stumbled into. Kale approached, his crystalline markings glowing faintly with approval, the elder's stern facade cracking into a rare smile. The human's hacks turned the tide. "Zerathia owes you a debt, Jake Harlan. But Vexar's words, Earth's pact must be addressed. We cannot ignore potential threats from allies." Jake nodded, the drama heightening one last time as he accessed his implant, pulling up the classified files he'd glimpsed earlier, now decrypting them fully with Zerathian tech aiding the process. The data spilled out in holographic streams, Earth's desperate negotiations for faster-than-light drives, brokered through intermediaries who, unbeknownst to most diplomats like him, funneled tech from Vexar's illicit networks. It was greed masked as progress, he admitted, his voice steady but laced with regret. "My government cut corners, thinking they were outsmarting the galaxy. They didn't know the full chain. Vexar used it to spy, to manipulate. But I can expose it, send the proof back to Earth. No more shadows." Zara's expression softened, the awkward tension dissolving like mist under the rising sun, her pointed ears perking up as she processed his words. "You could have hidden it, run back to your world. But you choose truth. That's the madness I love in you humans." She stepped closer, her curvaceous form brushing his, a reminder of their shared intimacies, and pressed a kiss to his forehead, sealing the resolution with quiet affection. Nara watched with a knowing grin, the family whole again, and even Kale inclined his head. "Transmit the data. Zerathia will stand with you if Earth resists reform. Alliances built on deception crumble, those on trust endure." With the Council's blessing, Jake beamed the files through secure channels, the message rippling across the stars to Earth's command, a catalyst for change that would shake bureaucracies and herald a new era of transparency. Responses trickled in almost immediately, shocked acknowledgments, promises of investigations, and a personal commendation for his role in dismantling the corrupt links. Vexar, pulled from the wreckage and bound in energy cuffs, snarled from his cell, but his empire lay in ruins, his fleet scattered, his threats empty echoes. "You think you've won?" he growled during the interrogation, tentacles limp in defeat. "The galaxy devours the weak." Jake stood tall beside Zara, humor glinting in his eyes as he replied, "Maybe. But humans? We adapt, we fight, and we turn devourers into dinner." The quip drew chuckles from the guards, lightening the final confrontation, and Vexar was led away to face Zerathian justice. His reign ended not with a bang, but with the quiet click of a cell door. You think this ends here? The human's world hides secrets too. Ask him about Earth's true agenda. The words seeded more doubt, a layered twist hinting at deeper conspiracies. Zara glanced at Jake, questions burning, but battle called. They charged into the fray, his hacks turning tides, her strikes lethal poetry. Amid explosions and clashes, their bond reforged in fire, surprises be damned. As Zerathia's moons watched, humanity's madness proved pivotal. Jake's improvisation exposing Vexar's overreach. Ships fell, the fleet retreating, but the twist's echoes promised more revelations. In the aftermath, Zara pulled him aside amid rubble. What did he mean Earth's agenda? Jake swallowed, memories surfacing, vague briefings, hidden directives. I don't know. But we'll uncover it. Together. The powerful reversal had shaken foundations, but from surprise came strength, their love a beacon against the stars' deceit.